This is one of those civil rights stories that they don't really tell. It didn't start in the Deep South, it started up north. And it shows a black woman fighting back, knowing the law, and winning. And she just happens to share the same birthday, April 9th. But that's neither here nor there. Let me tell you about Irene Morgan. See, when people talk about civil rights, they usually jump straight to Rosa Parks. Maybe Claudette Colvin if they're digging a little deeper. But Irene Morgan, this happened way before all of that. And it didn't even happen the way people think these stories usually happen. So boom, it's July 16th, 1944. Irene Morgan is 27 years old, and she's from Baltimore, Maryland. That's the North. Now, don't get it twisted. The North wasn't perfect. Racism was still very much a thing, but it was different. So she's traveling through Virginia on a Greyhound bus, headed to Maryland for a doctor's appointment. She gets on the bus, sits where she's supposed to sit, in the so-called colored section. Everything's fine, until it's not. The bus starts filling up, and a white couple gets on. The white bus driver decides he wants them to sit together, so he tells Irene that she has to give up her seat. And Irene's basically said, no. And it wasn't because she was confused. It wasn't because she didn't understand the rules. She knew exactly what she was talking about. She told him, this is an interstate bus. It's crossing state lines. Virginia's segregation laws don't apply here. And that's when things escalated. Instead of just driving the bus, the driver pulls over and calls the police. A deputy gets on the bus and hands Irene an arrest warrant. And this part right here, this is why I love her. She ripped that warrant up and threw it out the window. Like, sir, you could keep that. One of the officers cursed at her and tried to grab her arm to pull her out the seat. And Irene was not about to be handled. She kicked him. Yes, she kicked a grown man. She fought him. She later said when another officer tried to grab her, she was going to bite him, but he was dirty. So she clawed him instead, ripped his shirt and everything. Told him if he pulled out his nightstick that they was going to be whipping each other. Listen, they was not about to play with sis. Eventually, they dragged her off the bus and locked her up in the county jail. And even then, she's yelling through the bars asking somebody to call her mama. But here's the thing. The story didn't end there. Irene Morgan didn't just take the charge and move on. She fought it legally. The NAACP took her case, and Thurgood Marshall was part of that legal team. The argument wasn't emotional. It was smart. They said if interstate travel is under federal control, then states can't just make up their own segregation rules for buses crossing state lines. And in 1946, 2 years later, the Supreme Court agreed. They ruled in Morgan v. Virginia that segregation on interstate buses was unconstitutional. That's almost 10 years before Rosa Parks. And even after that ruling, southern states still tried to ignore it. So activists had to force the issue, which led to the journey of reconciliation and eventually the Freedom Rides. So when we talk about Freedom Rides, that blueprint started with Irene Morgan. Today, there's a historical marker honoring her and what she did, because what she did mattered. She wasn't trying to be famous. She wasn't leading a movement. She was a black woman standing on all 10, knowing her rights and refusing to move. And this is why I say this story deserves more attention. Because this wasn't passive resistance. This was don't touch me, I know the law, and we'll see it through resistance. And that's exactly why they don't always tell it like this. And see, that's why these stories are important. Because it's the stories where we outsmarted them. The ones where we knew the law, stood on it, and used it against a system that wasn't built for us. Those are the stories they don't really like to tell. They'd rather you believe we were always just tired, always just sitting, always just waiting on somebody else to save us. But that's not the truth. The truth is, a lot of times we were 10 steps ahead, strategic, informed, standing on all 10. And that's exactly why we keep telling these stories. Because our history only dies when we stop telling it. And I ain't gonna stop telling it. So make sure you comment, like, and share this story. Reshare it with somebody else so that they can see it. Somebody who might have never heard her name before. And if you got kids, send them over to the Urban Roots Learning, one word, on YouTube. We've got videos that are kid appropriate, educational, and made for them to actually understand where they came from. Until next time, peace.